What's up, it's Ben MG Scully knocking out a new video for you guys today, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 most disgusting fouls in boxing. I hope you all enjoy. Make sure to like and subscribe to help the channel grow, and yeah, I hope you all enjoy. Stay tuned because I got a little surprise at the end. So before we begin, I just want to say that the order of these is going to go in descending order, so from number 5 to number 1. And the way I've listed these isn't always necessarily the worst from the least offensive foul to the worst. It's more to do with the scope of the foul, yeah, how bad it was and the effect it had on the fight or the opponent, and also how relevant it was, or and obviously the opponents were fighting as well, the competitors. So if it's a bigger name, it's most likely going to get on the top of this list. So if you disagree with my choices, feel free to put your opinions down in the comments, and because I might have missed an important event that where a foul occurred that you could have told me about, that you can tell me about, sorry, and yeah, let me know. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know. So moving on to number 5. So, number 5, this one isn't necessarily an incredibly disgusting foul, but it's just mainly because of the scope of the fight and how recent it was, November 9th, 2019. It's KSI versus Logan Paul, and as you can see on the side of me, KSI gets hit with a really good uppercut, rocks him, but then Logan Paul wraps his arms around the back of his head, hits him with another uppercut while holding his head down. That's illegal. KSI falls, and then as he's on the floor, Logan hits him on the ground. Also, the 12-6 punch. That's also illegal, I believe. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. But he's done at least 2 fouls there, and I think quite fairly he gets 2 points taken off. And then, but the knockdown does get scored. But the knockdown was scored with the holding his head down uppercut. So, in the moment I can understand what the referee Jack Reese was thought like, but what I think should have happened is 1 point should have been taken off, but I don't think the knockdown should have been scored. I think that was fair. Obviously they given KSI the 5-minute timer to get his feet under him a little bit. That was fair. But yeah, taking 2 points, for new people maybe a bit much, but they shouldn't have scored the knockdown. So either way, 2 points and the knockdown, or 1 point and no knockdown, both of those are fair. But yeah, that's number 5. It's just mainly because of how recent it is, and obviously the big YouTube names going into a fight. This kind of stuff does happen with relatively new boxers. So you see fouls all the time in the YouTube fights, or cheap shots and dirty tactics, but unfortunately it's just how boxing goes. But yeah, moving on to number 4. So at number 4 we got Marco Barrera versus Juan Manuel Marquez. In this fight, it went to round 7, and Marquez gets dropped. It's a very fair knockdown, and he ends up on his hands and knees. He's on all fours, and instead of the ref scoring a knockdown and Barrera going to a neutral corner to wait for Marquez to get up, he stands there and he hits Marquez again. It's one of the worst cases you've seen of hitting a downed opponent. I'll put a little clip of it right here. It is, it's disgusting fouls. This is what this video is about, and well, it's not good to watch something like this. This stuff doesn't always happen, so don't let this dissuade you from starting boxing. Boxing is a great sport you should take part in, and it's normally a very respectful sport, but unfortunately things spurs of the moment, and sometimes bad blood can make this kind of stuff happen. So don't take this as an example of what boxing is all the time, because it is 99% of the time. It doesn't happen. It doesn't end like this. So yeah, that's that. And moving on to number 3. So at number 3 we have a little bit of controversy. We've got Antonio Margarito versus Miguel Cotto, their first match. For any boxing fans, I'm sure they've heard of this one. When you watch the fight when it was happening, you see Miguel Cotto, an incredible boxer, and Margarito, a very, very tough guy with not as much skills, but he's like the boogeyman. He'll rely on, trying to hit you, but also wearing you down by constantly coming forward and taking your best shots on the chin, and eventually either breaking your will by wondering how am I going to get this guy out of here, or by you getting tired and then he gets you. So his skills weren't as good as some of the top level professionals. They were there 100%, but they weren't at the same. It's like here's the top 10 in the world. He was here, but because of his toughness, it made up for it. He fought Miguel Cotto, who was one of the best boxers in that division, and you see that fight and you're wondering, geez, how hard does Margarito hit? Because every time he was hitting Cotto, it was seriously, big shots, and after a few rounds, you could see the effect they were having on Cotto's face. He was bleeding, he was bruised, he was swelling, and it makes you wonder, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy had stuff in his gloves, but we say that sarcastically when we see a heavy hitter. But after the fight, he takes his gloves off, and you do see a rip in his hand wraps. And it happens every now and then, but you see this brown kind of material inside of his hand wraps, and it looks very similar to plaster. Now, plaster's the stuff that you put on your walls to make them tougher. He's just put them in his boxing gloves and hit a dude as hard as he can multiple times and won a fight because of it. That is one of the most disgusting fouls in the last 20 years, 100%. There was a similar case like this in the 80s, I believe, but it was with lesser known fighters, and I feel like this one, more people know about this occurrence than the previous time this happened. But what is good about this story is that it is a bit bittersweet, because they do have a rematch because of the controversy, and they made sure, they doubled down on making sure nothing was put in anybody's gloves, and Cotto beat Margarito pretty well in the second match, and he got revenge in that. So that's always a good story to tell, because it's discussed in the first fight, but how Cotto gets revenge in the second fight is makes up for it, and what goes around comes around. What can I say? So moving on to number 2. Now this one isn't so controversial, but my people's opinion, they're very split on this on what to take from this occurrence. So I'm gonna find a clip on the side. Victor Ortiz versus Mayweather. The foul I'm talking about in this video isn't what Floyd does after this, but it's the foul that Victor Ortiz does to Mayweather. As Mayweather does, he's trying to avoid shots, and Victor Ortiz is very, swarming him, and, he's catching him a few times, as some people do with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd does struggle for a bit while he makes his read, but once he makes his read and adjusts, he dismantles people, basically. But what we see in this fight is that, Victor Ortiz is pressuring Mayweather, and Mayweather does shoulder roll a few punches and block a few, and it looks like Victor Ortiz gets a bit frustrated, and what he does is he puts his head down on his chest and lunges his head up, and he headbutts Floyd Mayweather blatantly for everyone to see, and it's not hidden or nothing, and the ref takes a point off of Ortiz because of it, and when once he's taken the point off, made sure Floyd was okay. Floyd says he's okay. He resumes the fight, and Ortiz acts like it was all an accident when he clearly done it on purpose. So he kind of gives Floyd a hug or whatever. He kind of puts his arms on his shoulders, I'm sorry. All you see is him doing that, trying to embrace Floyd. Floyd has his hands by his side. He's angry at him. He isn't bothered by his him showing affection. So, but as soon as Ortiz lets go of Mayweather cracks him with a hook and then throws a straight shot right down the pipe, and it drops Ortiz. But the thing is, Ortiz doesn't have his hands up, but the ref said box. He said resume fighting, and you know, they always say protect yourself at all times. That's what the refs say when they get you in the middle of the ring. They say obey my commands at all times. That's one. Protect yourself at all times. That's two. That's the two first big rules a referee will tell you. And what can I say? Ortiz didn't defend himself, and he paid for it. And it's a bit of karma because of the disgusting foul he done to Floyd just now. At that point, and a lot of people do say that Floyd is just as bad as Ortiz for hitting him when he wasn't defending himself, but it's boxing. You're not gonna wait for him to put his hands up before you're gonna hit him. If the ref says go, and your opponent hasn't got their hands on their head and you want to throw at their head, then do it. That's what I say. I believe in cheap shots, but you know, I can understand the timing of it all. Obviously, just being fouled, you know, blatantly, and you know your opponent having a point taken off of them. You just want to knock him out right then instead of, obviously, Floyd's game plan is to move around, make you miss, and counter you for 12 rounds. But obviously, I'm sure Ortiz doing that makes him want to knock him out there and then, and I can understand that. But moving on to number 1, our last pick of the day. Now, you might have been seeing this one coming, but this is probably one of the most notorious and disgusting fouls in the last 40 years. We're talking about Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield 2. The first fight they had was, you know, a very decisive victory for Evander Holyfield. I think I believe he stopped Mike Tyson in the 11th round, I believe. And they had a rematch, and the first 2 rounds went virtually the same as the first fight, and Mike Tyson being visibly annoyed by how nothing has changed. Between round 2 and 3 in the corner, he takes his mouthpiece out, and no one puts a mouthpiece back in his mouth. They may not have noticed that he didn't have one in, and he goes out to the 3rd round without a mouthpiece in. So that's very dangerous, and you can get told off for it if the ref realises. Because obviously if you get hit with an uppercut, you know, you don't want that. And obviously that, but 30 times faster. You don't want that. Teeth come out and, you know, get chipped teeth, and, you know, that won't be good. But obviously not wearing a mouthpiece is, you know, is a foul in itself, really, especially doing it on purpose. But there was a reason he took his mouthpiece out, because later on in the round, when they would tie up in a clinch, Mike Tyson would bite onto Evander Holyfield's ear, and he done it in round 3, had a point taken off of him, I believe, or 2 points taken off of him because of how disgusting the foul was. And then round 4 started, and he continued to do it, and because of it, Evander Holyfield's ear was bleeding. He was in visible agony, and it was even, you can even see on his ear now, there's a small piece, like a little bit of this you see on my ear. There's a little bit of that missing from his ear. He took a piece off of his ear in a boxing match from biting it off. So you can't not put this at number 1, considering it's Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield, 2 legends of the sport. And how infamous that foul is, especially. You can't not put this at number 1, because everyone knows about Mike Tyson biting Evander Holyfield's ear. I suppose some people believe he literally bit his ear off. I mean, I've seen some people saying, "Oh, Mike Tyson bit that dude's ear off." Like, he didn't bite his ear off. He bit a tiny piece off, but he did, you know, make his ear bleed, and did take a little piece off in a boxing match and got disqualified for it. This was like the end of Mike Tyson's career. I believe after this fight he was something like maybe 45 and 4 or something like that. I don't know, but it wasn't nowhere near the best showing of Mike Tyson, and at that time we didn't really see the best Mike Tyson. But that's how it goes. And Mike Tyson wasn't the same after that point, and obviously he retired later on. And that's our top 5 worst fouls in boxing, or most notable fouls in boxing. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another upload. And my special announcement that I have for you guys is that my running video is coming out tomorrow. I have my second installment of my running series, my vlogs. I may have a funny intro for you guys, but we will see. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. If you comment, I'm gonna put a comment in the description, and like my comment if you want me to premiere the running video. If I don't get many likes, I'll just upload it when the time comes instead of premiering it. It's whatever you guys want, and if you enjoy seeing a premiere, so seeing a video live for the first time, essentially, then yeah, I'll keep doing that for you guys. But that's it for this video, and thank you all for watching. BenMG Scully is out.